20 policemen pulled me off the stage.
Hello, how are you feeling? And welcome to Josiah is Right. So the interview you're about to watch was actually recorded in fall of 2022, maybe September, October, I don't even recall. So some of the references time-wise, mainly to my kids being younger, are for that reason. This video was kind of lost in the shuffle when we moved, and also it was recorded in part to be part of our future Breaking Bad podcast, which hopefully will still happen, but just life got in the way. It's been put on the back burner for right now. So enjoy this as you go through all of Larry Hankin's career, from 60s stand-up comedy to TV in the 1980s and 90s, to making his own films, to getting an Oscar nomination for one of those short films, all the way up to Breaking Bad, where we do a detailed breakdown of his 3 appearances on Breaking Bad, from 2 episodes and the El Camino film. So be sure to watch all the way to the end, because Larry has some amazing stories and some really great insight into the creative process as well. So thank you for watching, and thank you again to Mr. Hankin, and I'm glad I'm finally getting this one out, so enjoy. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you joining me. I also want to say he let me reschedule last week so my wife could apply for a job, which she did get. So it worked out.
Oh, so, cool. Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'll have to look for one for me. Okay.
Well, she's a librarian, so if you're into that line of work.
Librarian is open. I'm open to all kinds.
So I was looking, so just that some things, the Wikipedia sort of thing, were you, just a random question to start with, were you actually homeless at one point?
Oh, yeah, for a year.
Oh, wow. Was that in LA or I'm in Anaheim, but were you in LA or back in
San Francisco?
Okay.
It was an adventure. I guess I let it happen. I mean, I was evicted basically without me knowing it. Okay. I went away for 2 months to New York to earn some money to pay my rent, and I lived on a houseboat. Well, I lived on a boat. It wasn't a houseboat. It was a boat. It was just a hull. It was a hull with a floor, with a floorboards, like behind a bar, with the openings in between. And I lived on it, I had a little pallet for a mattress, and I had to get a mattress for one, and blankets, and that was it. And then there was a wire from the dock all the way out. I was out about 50 yards. No less, about 25 yards from the dock. And there was 10 of us, 10 boats. Those boats, those landing boats at Omaha Beach, when the front goes down, and then all the guys go out and they get machine gunned. That boat. Those boats. Those boats were put on sale after the war was over. They had all those. I don't think they were LSTs. I think they were LSDs or something. But they went into the shore. The government said they had about 500 for sale after the war was over, and the guy who owned the junkyard that the dock was attached to in Sausalito was on the shore. He had a junkyard along the shore. And then Sausalito was up there. This rich, overlooking the bay.
Yeah.
You get down to the shore, there's a junkyard, about it's about 100, at least 100 feet. I don't know. No, about 100 feet from the shoreline up the coast, and then Sausalito started, and then all these rich buildings. And this guy bought 10. This guy who owned the junkyard bought 10 LSDs, whatever they were called. And he rented them out for $150 a month. And each one had a wire from the dock, and that was your electricity, to the roof. Then what he did was he built sides on them. There was somebody, some craftsman in Sausalito, put sides on, cut windows in, and put a flat roof, just boards across the roof, and then tar papered it. And there was a little little thing where the wire came in and down. And so I lived there, and then I went to New York to earn some money because I was working in a theater there, but I wasn't making much money. So I went to New York for 2 months, and I didn't tell the guy on the dock. Well, it was a woman on the dock. His daughter ran the place, ran the junkyard. His daughter ran the junkyard. And so I would row in every month on the 1st and pay her $150 cash. And that was the deal. And so I went away for 2 months. I wasn't rowing in on the 1st of every month.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I would be back in 3 weeks, but they were paying me so much more. The guy was paying me so much money to help him write a bought screenplay. So I was called the wild man. I just threw him jokes and stuff. I just sat there and he typed. But we took 2 months. So I figured, well, okay, 3 weeks, 2 months, doesn't matter. I have a lot of money when I get back. I'll pay her extra. And when I got back, everything that I had on my boat, she threw overboard. Everything, mattress, sleeping bags, books, records, radios, everything, rugs. So I was bereft, and so I had an old car that I bought, an old Volkswagen van, 1962 Volkswagen green and white van, the classic ones, but it was emptied out. I bought it for $5. It looked like a delivery van. I mean, there's no seats in it. There's no cloth in it. There was only one wobbly seat for the driver. And if you drove with me, you sat on a milk crate by the shotgun, So I lived in that for a year. Yeah. And it was, I was panicked when I first got back and everything was thrown overboard. So I had nothing except the van.
Mm-hmm.
It was parked there. I don't know why she didn't drive that into the bay also, but it was still parked there. And I lived in it for a year, and about the first couple of weeks, I was panicked and looking for a place to live, and I was couch surfing on friends' couches and stuff. And then I just sort of gave in, and I said, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I did it for a year, and then finally I couldn't take it. Well, I learned how to do it. So then the thrill was over. So,
the thrill
yeah,
of homelessness.
That's the whole thing.
So you are originally from New York, correct?
Yeah.
And so
Rockaway, Long Island.
Okay, Long Island. So then, but you got your start. I understand. Then you went to Syracuse, and there you met Carl Gottlieb.
Well, no, I graduated. Yeah, I went to Syracuse. Then I graduated Syracuse in industrial designer and didn't want to do that. I just did that to please my parents. And I thought it was an art kind of thing, industrial design.
Yeah.
Using my paintings up there. So I thought I was going to design school and learning how to design cars, those teardrop, stuff. But it was all math and engineering. I didn't realize that. I didn't do any research, I just, design, industrial design. Yeah, I want to go there. Because they forced me to go to college. You had to go to college. So I was a good kid. I went to industrial design. But I didn't want to do it after I graduated. So I went to Greenwich Village with my best friend, Carl Gottlieb, who I made we became friends in college. And so I was we were roommates in Greenwich Village, and I became a stand-up comedian because he wanted to be a writer. He wrote Jaws and all those movies. He wrote a lot of movies. And I was cleaning bars, but I kind of liked it. As long as I didn't have to be an industrial designer, I didn't care what I was. And I knew things would get better. That was always.
You've already said you'd be a librarian, right? So.
Well, librarian, yeah, whatever. I was cleaning duck boards from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. in a bar and grill. And that was fine with me because I knew things would get better. I would get another job somehow. I'd get something that I liked because everybody in the village was doing the same thing I was doing. They were doing, open mic nights at night, and during the daytime, they were waiting tables or whatever, doing any kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I wasn't any different than anybody else, just being in. But I started doing open mic nights, and I was a funny kid in high school and college. So, and I started to learn how to do it. I mean, being on stage as a stand-up comedian and making people laugh is not like hanging out with your friends and making people laugh. It's totally different. So I learned that really quick. And then I was opening for Woody Allen and Miles Davis and 11 Spoonful and the Kingston Trio. I was doing well. I loved it. And then I discovered, Lenny Bruce and Richie Pryor and George Carlin. So I was doing that kind of humor.
Yeah.
It's called critical thinking humor. And that then the cops started to pull me off the stage in arenas. I was opening for 11 Spoonful. 20 policemen pulled me off the stage. Actually, they didn't pull me off the stage. They marched up onto the stage, 10 on each aisle, wall aisle. And they marched up from both sides, 10 on each side. And then they just tapped me on the shoulder. They said, let's go. And they didn't drag me at all. So I went voluntarily, but because the audience had been booing me. And I had been shouting at the audience. I was doing, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and insane fuck and stuff. And the audience, this is a college audience, 11 Spoonfuls audience who's in an arena. 2,000 people or something, I don't know. And when I started doing the dirty stuff, they started to boo. And then they were laughing along at the clean stuff, the commercial stuff, hey, did you see this commercial? So when I started doing the critical thinking stuff, they started to boo and no, do the clean stuff, do the funny stuff. And I started hollering at them because they started to throw their armrests, in these old theaters, they had these wooden armrests. You could knock them off. You hit them from behind. And they were throwing them at me. And if one of those hit me, I would have gone to the hospital. So I was dodging them and yelling at them, saying, well, I thought you're a college student. You're college students. You should be sex, drugs, and rock and roll. What's wrong with you? And they shut up. As long as I hollered at them, like talking to them and not doing my material, that was the whole point. They shut up. They listened to me, So I said, okay, I'll do my clean stuff. And they go, yay, okay. So I started doing what little clean stuff I had left. And then when I got a big laugh, I started to do the critical thinking stuff, sex, drugs, and rock. And they started to boo. And really, now that they turned on the lights, and then you could see the guys in the back or above the fifth row, back from the fifth row, they started pulling off their armrests and passing them down to the first two rows who had run out of armrests. And so they were passing them down. Here, throw these, here, pass them down. So they started to, and that's when the cops came up. And it turned out that the dean had called the cops when I first started doing the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And then when when the cops arrived, I went into my clean stuff. So they waited in the back. They said, well, he's not doing anything, he's doing material. So they wait. And then when I went back into it, I didn't see them back there. They just boom, just marching up. Okay, let's go.
I feel like there's two versions of that story, though, right? Where the cops are the heroes or the cops are the bad guys, because they couldn't argue they saved you.
Exactly. They didn't know because when they came up there, they marched up because I was doing the sex, drugs, and rock and roll stuff. They marched up, but when I saw them, I stopped and watched them. I watched them, march up. And so I was waiting for them, and the audience calmed down because, cops were in the audience. Cops were in the room, shut up. So everybody became cool, including me. I just watching them, what the hell is this going on? And they came up and they said, let's go, you got to get off the stage. and they were very polite. They were very polite. So they weren't like cops. They weren't pigs. They were cops. And so they marched me out. But I don't think they really knew why they were pulling me off the stage, because I hadn't gotten really into the dirty, critical thinking, stuff. And so they were nice. So they weren't bad. They weren't good. They were just doing their job. And when they got me backstage, 18 kept on marching and they just left. They all marched off the stage with me in tow. And then 18 kept on going, and 2 just held me. Well, they didn't hold me. They held me by my arms very gently, because I was walking with them. I didn't fight. I said, well, okay, let's go off the stage. Fine. Got me backstage. And then the 2 guys just stood there. And I'm going, why are you standing here? I'm off the stage, And the 11 Spoonful were getting because I was taken off early, so they weren't ready to go on. So they were rushing, and the crew was trying to set up the bandstand and their instruments and stuff. So there's a lot of chaos going on backstage because they pulled me off. And I said, well, why are you here? I'm off the stage. I'm not talking. But and they said, our instructions are to stand with you, to guard you, so that you don't run back out onto the stage and start cursing again. I said, oh, okay, fine. So we just stood there, the 3 of us, like, statues. I mean, I had nothing to say to them, right? And then when the Loving Spoonful started to play, that was their instructions. When the Loving Spoonful started to play music out on the stage, these 2 could leave. So when they heard the music, boom, they left. So I called my manager and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not fun. I mean, the cops take the laughs out of it, So he said, well, join Second City. So you can do the same thing, but they own the theater, so they'll throw the cops out, not you. So I said, okay. So that's what I did. I auditioned, I got in there. And then we kind of, 5 of us, I did that for about a couple of months, and then 5 of us split for San Francisco to open a theater there under the name of The Committee with Alan Meyerson. He was the one who took us there.
And I noticed your first actual listed credit is the John Bartholomew Tucker show, and it's credited as The Committee. So was that with the troupe, or?
Wait a minute, say that again. What was with The Committee?
The John Bartholomew Tucker show, and you're credited as The Committee.
Wow, man.
In 1966.
Right. Holy cow. Well, I don't even remember. I mean, I kind of remember that. Nobody has ever brought that up. That's the weirdest. How did you find that? Well, I think what was going on was I was in the committee. I had quit the stand-up deal, and I was in the committee, and we were very successful. And I would take off because it's improv, so people can switch roles and you just make up new stuff if you wanted to. But within, certain parameters, you couldn't destroy a scene. You had to keep the scene, but you could say different words and do it different. So I would take off, say on a Saturday night or sometime during it, and do my stand-up. I always kind of kept it in my head. And I would make extra money, I just go out. And it was fun to not be pulled off the stage. But I was playing small little venues, bar around the corner, or, some high school or something, or college or something. So I think the reasoning for that was Larry Hankin, the committee, was I was in the committee, but doing a one night, the Tucker show. So they said, Larry Hankin from the committee is going to do stand-up. So that's how I got that.
And that
was the only time I was ever associated with the committee.
Well, that's why it struck me when I saw it listed that way, because I'm like, and because I read, I'm like, I read about that you were part of a troupe called The Committee, and I'm like, oh, why is the credit as The Committee? So that was what struck me.
Here's the interesting thing about that one show that I do remember very vividly is when they found out that I was going to do the show, there was like a lag time of about 3 days. So they had the prop department or the set design department of this TV show design a backdrop for me so that I could stand not in front of a curtain, but in front of something. So what they did was they did a huge 10-foot, about 10-foot cartoon of me, cutout. So it was like me cartoonized. and then they said, you're going to perform in front of this. And then they brought out this cartoon of me. And it just blew my mind. I didn't want to do it. I said, no, you can't do that. No, I can't. Well, first of all, I thought that everybody be looking at the cartoon and not me, just paying attention to it. And they get that guy talking out of the way so we can see the cartoon. I mean, that's what went through my head. And then the other thing was, they said, well, we'll take it off. Okay, you can do it in front of a curtain if you want, but we'll give it to you. It's yours. I mean, we can't use it for anything else. It's a cartoon of you. So I said, okay, save it and I'll come back for it because I'm not prepared to put that in my car. I don't have anything to take it away with. And I just left it there because it frightened me. It really did. It just scared the hell out of me. And I don't know why. To this day, I have no idea. I left it there. I never went back.
Someone still has it, is waiting for you to come and pick it up all these years later.
Yeah, to this day, it's gathering dust in some bin.
It's like, I think whenever I was a kid in the 80s, they had those Maytag repairman commercials where he was like, had nothing to do. There's that guy with that thing for you, just sitting there waiting and waiting.
Yeah, well, so that's the only thing I remember, but nobody's ever and that's like 65. Holy cow.
I was just, like I said, I was curious as the way you're credited because
50 years ago, pretty much more than that. Wow. That's
closer to 60.
60, yeah.
And so one of the another very early thing you did was, it's interesting. I sort of had the question, what's with Breaking Bad actors and doing educational films early in their career? I know that his name's escaping me, Mike Ehrmantraut from the show. Jonathan Banks, yes, that he was in a film about menstruation was one of his first, and you were in an anti-smoking PSA in 1964. What's it called?
I did an anti-smoking film.
Yeah, but it was meant to be like an educational.
Oh, yeah, right.
But it was interesting because it's funny.
Well, to you, it's funny, I guess, and maybe now it's funny, but I had the lead in it. I was the guy who was selling cigarette. I was the front man for the cigarette company. If we're talking about the same thing,
yeah.
But I didn't think it was funny. I watched it once and I thought it was, because all I was doing was watching my performance and I didn't like my performance.
These boys and girls volunteered to make an honest comparison test between Finsters and another popular brand.
What makes you want to stop smoking, Mr. Remshaw?
Because I went from stand-up to improv and neither one of them are good for movies. I mean, the process, the part of it. And I was still kind of doing improv acting. I was over the top. Now, I guess they liked the fact that I was over the top because it was a comedy. But when I watched it, I wasn't doing movie acting. I was doing improv acting, and that's over the top. So I didn't like it. And it's funny that you say that it's funny because I haven't spoken to anybody who's actually seen it since then, since 64, right?
Yeah, 64. Yeah.
So I haven't talked to anybody since 64 or 65, since, when it came out, everybody in the committee watched it and, it was popular for about a week.
I guess I would say maybe the standard of it's funny is I grew up in the 80s and 90s, right, where PSAs were very trying to be cool, to teach you something like, hey, man, you can't do this. That was sort of the attitude that they did these things with. So it was refreshing to see something from, a prior generation that was trying to be humorous to do whatever, gets you to do whatever you want. So
Well,
maybe the standard isn't like compared to something like The
no, I
Jerk.
mean, that was the only thing that was going on. So I mean, it's not like I was going to refuse it. It was great. I was doing porny movies, man. I mean, I wasn't the pornographic part. I was the funny part. I was doing comedy roles, so I was fully dressed, but so I was like a sidekick or somebody who brought the guy to. So, but it was because of the money. I mean,
Yeah.
and the chance to do a movie, even though it was a pornographic movie, and they were like silly, one-off, 3-day shoots or 1-day shoot film. You shoot an entire movie in 1 day because it was just all fucking, basically. I mean, that was all it was. And then, this funny guy comes in. But what I learned is funny doesn't work in pornographic movies. Nobody comes to laugh.
Yeah.
I made a movie, straight movie, funny movie, comedy movie with my own money years later called Sally's Diner.
What are you doing here?
Could you put this on a low flame, please?
And it got an Academy Award nomination. When I showed that, now the rules for even submitting to the Academy is it has to be shown in an Academy okayed movie theater. It has to be a legitimate movie theater in LA County before you can send it to the Academy. So when I made it, we went around to various movie theaters and tried to, could you just put this, and all the movie theaters in LA, this was in LA, all the movie theaters know that during Academy, award time, the months before that, 2 months before that, they are obligated to show the film shorts. So if you come to them, they say, just put it in before your feature. It has to be shown. It has to be shown for a week, and then you can submit it to the Academy. It has to be shown in a legitimate theater. So we went around, and all the legitimate theaters had been taken because everybody was submitting. I mean, the amount of film shorts that's submitted to the Academy is amazing. So all the legitimate movie theaters in LA were filled with film shorts. So we had no place to, we were late, so we couldn't show it. And I wanted to really submit it to the Academy. That was the whole point. And so did the cinematographer. It was very important to him because he was looking for a job as a cinematographer, and he did a great job. So he wanted it shown. So I was getting depressed because it wasn't happening. And then he calls me one day and he says, "Hey man, guess what? This is the coincidence. Not only did I get a legitimate theater for the film, but it's in your neighborhood." I go, "Wow, that's cool. Let's go see it. Let's go see it." So he says, "Okay, it's at the Pussycat Theater." The Pussycat Theater, that's a pornographic movie theater. They show porny movies. It's right around the corner. I know that theater. He said, yeah, they're going to show it there for a week. I go, "What, are you crazy? No, you can't do it." He said, "Hey man, it's a legitimate theater and we can, put it into the Academy. If you refuse this, there's no other theaters left and you can't put it in. So forget it. I'm putting it in," because he wanted to get the film into the Academy. So I said, "Well, okay, And then I had a new girlfriend at the time, and she went, "Oh, where is it playing?" "Oh, it's playing in a porny theater." "Oh my God. Well, let's go." Okay. So we went in the afternoon, and sure enough, man, I mean, we go into the movie. It wasn't advertised. It was just the porny movie was advertised. So we go in and we sit down. It's empty except for 10 guys all sitting separately in coats of some sort, jackets and stuff like this. And so there's a point to this story. It applies to your question, and here it is. So generally what it is, and all the movie legitimate is they show the the film short first, and then they show the feature. This is what was going on in the
And just
Pussy.
like for anyone, the closest thing today would be what Pixar does with they'll have their animated short before they're featured. That's kind of
Yeah.
like, and
Exactly.
that's really the modern.
That's how the old film shorts used to do. The comedy, serial, Perils
Yeah.
of Pauline and stuff, before the feature. So that's what they did. So okay, so here's this. So we were in the first show. I wanted to go to the first show. I wanted to go to the emptiest show. I just didn't want to be seen.
Other than being seen on the screen, of course.
And on the screen, that was okay, but I didn't want to be known as a director hanging out in a porny movie. Say, hey, I saw this guy. He was in a porny movie theater. Not that I was up on the screen. I was just an actor. I wanted to be a director. Okay, so the movie starts. My film short starts, and it's a comedy. And there's 3 people in it. There's 2 guys and a girl. So as soon as Sally's Diner, and you see a waitress and a poor guy and another guy sitting at the counter. So you see the guys are sitting there, nothing's happening. Then this movie starts, and you see the guys go, okay. They just sat straight up and they say, oh, we're ready for porno.
I don't think it's polite to point a gun at a lady.
And then 2 guys and a girl. Oh man, it's a pile-on. And no, so they're waiting, and the girl isn't taking, or the woman isn't taking off her clothes. The guys aren't taking off their clothes. Then another guy comes in, a businessman. Oh, maybe the businessman is going to do it in front of these 2 guys. No, the businessman holds up the diner.
Would you give me a dollar's worth of change for the cigarettes?
I don't have any change. Maybe you could ask the policeman around the corner if he has some change.
Okay, this is a stick-up. Just be calm.
So he's got a gun. He's threatening with a bottle, and then he takes all the cash. And the poor guy, me, I was playing a homeless guy. Memory. I was playing a homeless guy. And the homeless guy saves the day. He captures the guy, and so he gets a free meal, which is
and originally, like, part of what's funny about it is too, originally you try to rob the place yourself before that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, you might have seen it.
I have. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, but and the movie is over. The poor guy, the chaplain-esque guy, wins the day, and he captures the guy. And the 10 guys, I was watching the 10 guys, never mind the movie. And the 10 guys are looking around like, what the? There was no, I thought this was a porny movie. They're thinking that maybe they're in the wrong theater or something, because they had just watched an entire movie with no pornography whatsoever. And they couldn't figure it out. Their minds are blown. I said, okay, let's get out of here. So we got out of here. But yeah, so that's my adventure with pornography. But
and I love that led to an Academy Award nomination. That's just,
yeah, it did. But what I learned was comedy doesn't go well in a pornographic movie. That's what I learned.
Perfect. And I'm glad you brought that up. That was in my notes to discuss the film, because I did watch it, and it's interesting. Like, so obviously you did that with the goal to write and direct more, correct? And
yeah, but I found that it was very, very difficult. I mean, hard to make a movie, to raise the money. I mean, you got to raise at least $100,000, if and not more, way more, to raise the money, and then hire all the people and the crew and direct and rewrite the script, and it was just too much. So I figured I'll be an actor, save my money, and make my own little films. So all the films I made about 30 over time. And I paid for them all myself. I produced every one of them. And I got great satisfaction out of that. I learned how to direct, and I see, how writing goes to the screen and how it changes or doesn't change. So that's all I wanted to know. I'm just curious. I don't have dreams, like I dream of being an actor. I dream of being a director. I don't have those. I have curiosities. I just, what would it be like if I learned to play the guitar? That's a curiosity. What would it be like if I painted real big? Huge paintings. What would that be like? So I made 40 of those, and then I just stopped. What would it be like to write a screenplay? So I wrote a couple of those, and okay. But trying to sell them and raise money and get an agent, I'm not curious about that. I'm not curious about finance. I don't care about money. It's really weird. And maybe that's why money kind of comes to me. Doesn't come to me, but
that's a good problem to have.
I have enough to live a nice, okay, comfortable lifestyle. And I don't worry. That's what I try to avoid. I can't handle traumatic situations. I see
you don't want to find yourself in that situation where you're evicted from your boat again.
Pressure. I don't like pressure. So if I sense pressure, I'll just try to go around it. And what I've learned over the years is you can't avoid pressure. You can't go around pressure. You just meet more pressure. So you got to go through it. That's the only way. You can't go under it. You can't go over it. But it's a learning process.
No, and it's interesting how it all, I mean, it relates. And then, because I was looking, and then you have like a lot more, just at least what you're credited, as a writer and director and all that, it kind of comes a bit later. So were you like, if you look at least at what you're credited as, like on the IMDb, through the 80s and 90s in particular, if you had a television, you saw Mr. Hankin on your television. From, WKRP in Cincinnati, Hill Street Blues, Amazing Stories, which was a great show I loved as a kid, Newhart, Alf, another show that was my jam, Mr. Belvedere, Picket Fences, of course, famously, the fake Kramer on Seinfeld.
Oh, I'll be comfortable.
Oh, I'm Kramer. No, yeah. I'm Kramer.
Yeah, it was just one of television's best moments in that. And then, of course, Friends as Mr. Heckler. And so just...
Mr. Heckles.
Mr. Heckles. Yes, you're right. My poor writing. And I was watching Friends in the 90s. I was a kid watching Friends, thinking that's what adults live like in New York in the 90s. I was way off. I've never even been to New York, but I was like, yeah, my 20s were not like that. in the
I don't think anybody's.
No.
Mr. Heckles, no one is making any noise up here.
You're disturbing my oboe practice.
But just seeing that, so at that time, are you still writing and doing your own thing? Because I just, the way that you're looking at your credits, you see some more things like in 2004, Revenge of the Living Thing, and you're sort of started...
The Ring Thing?
The Ring Thing, yeah, sorry. My handwriting.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted
I'm making up credits for you that you didn't do. That's your next thing. Revenge of the Living, Revenge of the Ring Thing in 2004. So right. It sort of seems like at least that sort of, you're doing your own thing kind of ramps up after.
Well, it's based on one thing and one thing only. The more money I made, the more money I saved and spent on
you can
film.
Do on that. I got you.
So, I mean, it's 1-to-1.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything else. I mean, I could have bought a house with the 30 films, that I paid for.
Yeah.
So I try to add it up. It's about $200,000-$300,000 over 10, 15 years. But it was all going to movies, making my movies. And again, I don't look back. I like what I did. I don't mind not having a house. I have an apartment. I can pay for it.
Yeah.
I learned to play the guitar. I made my paintings. I wrote my screenplays. I did what I wanted to do, what I was curious about. I was a stand-up comedian. I never had any dreams. Now I just wrote a book that I dreamed of publishing a book. I wanted to publish a book. What would that be like? I guess it was the grand curiosity is your bliss. So I just wrote it, and I'm dickering with a publisher now. He's giving me sass. He won't sign the contract. But I want to see it out there. I want to get it published and out there. So if I have to publish it myself, it'll be like making my own movie. I don't care. I just told it's a great thing. An agent once told me when I was starting in show business, I would never turn down any job that they sent me out on. I had two really cool guys who are my agents, and they would send me out, regularly. I did a lot of auditioning as a young athletic, actor. But I never turned down anything, because I thought, if you turned, I don't know where I got this thought, but I said, if you turn down one, they'll think you're too uppity. They won't hire you again. So I just kept on accepting it. And then one day they called, they said, hey, we got this thing. I don't know if you want to do it. And I go, well, what is it? And they explained it to me, and I said, wow, man, I don't know if I want to do it. And he goes, well, then turn it down. I mean, he just said it that way, like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
I go, well, yeah, but I can't. Why can't you? Well, because they won't hire me again. He said, what are you, crazy? He said, Larry, you got to turn down something. I go, why? He says, because you have to have a no. You got to say no somewhere along the line. You just can't keep doing these things. I said, okay, no. He said, okay, good. Now, I said, oh, how do you feel? I go, I don't know. He said, well, you said no, I'm going to turn it down. When you hang up the phone, sit down and think about it. I think you're going to feel better. Click, and he hangs up. So I sat there and I go, I turned down something. Okay. And I didn't know what to do. And then about 4 or 5 days later, he calls up. He says, hey, I got another job for you. You want to do it? I said, yeah. I said, okay. How's that no thing going? I said, well, I got through it, man. Yeah. I said, I got to know now. He said, okay, just keep that in mind. Keep saying no. Don't worry about it. It's great advice. Great advice.
No, it really is. So let's jump to talk a little bit about Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Like I said, I did.
Then can we talk about all those little statues behind you?
Those are that's my childhood. That's now on the wall. So
that's amazing. Okay, yeah, let's talk about Breaking Bad.
So you've seen the Marvel section and
okay, yeah,
Star Wars.
I noticed them. I'm watching.
Yeah,
not only you, but your wall.
If they start to move behind me, then I would worry for both of us. That's,
yeah. All right, what about Breaking Bad?
So you played the character of Old Joe,
yeah.
And you had, I believe we were in 2 episodes and then in El Camino, and 2 really critical episodes, which I just rewatched last night. And like I said, I didn't watch Breaking Bad at the time. So I mentioned at the beginning, I have a master's in screenwriting from USC.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so when I was in school, it was, I was getting my master's in like 08, 09. 2009, the same year I got my master's, and my wife and I got married. And so when I was in school, that's when Breaking Bad was new. And I remember I was in a TV writing class, and I read the pilot, and I read a bunch of pilots at the time, and sort of, to see how, and I didn't get to watch all of them. And I never ended up watching that show for some reason. And I heard great things. All my classmates, it was like, the time of Mad Men, that sort of renaissance of those TV shows in that era. And I finally, when COVID kind of shut the world down, my wife and I were like, well, let's watch a new show. And so we started watching Breaking Bad, and I'm glad we waited because we just didn't stop. We watched it all the way through, including all the way through El Camino.
Binged.
Yeah, like over. I mean, it was I have a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and I was like dreading like, don't wake up, don't wake up. We need to watch this episode. Don't wake up. And of course, inevitably, the kids would wake up, and you'd have to pause it right when something's happening. And either my wife goes upstairs or I go upstairs, and the other's like waiting for the person to come back. So, yeah. But with that, you played, like I said, Old Joe. So in your first episode, and both of your episodes are pretty significant. I mean, I don't know, it's how many, all the episodes in Breaking Bad are sort of something's always happening. It's very dramatic. That's the nature of that show. But basically, the DEA finds out about the RV that they had been using, or they used way earlier, like maybe the first season, as their meth lab. And they find the RV and they're trying to trace it. And it's at like one of the buddies of Jesse, his brother or cousin, somebody has it in their facility. Brother-in-law, something, yeah. And is it Badger? Badger's the friend, I think, that his relative has it, and they're working on it, and the DEA is in pursuit, and they have to get it out of there. And then Walt, pulls his the great Bryan Cranston, in the role of Walter White, pulls his like, it has to be, if I go down, we all go down. And that character, Badger's brother-in-law or whatever, I know a better way. I know a guy that'll wipe it off the planet, no questions asked. And that guy is you. So then we cut to the salvage yard, where we see you in, I guess what I love about Breaking Bad is one of the first shows that had characters like you, or even like the Badger and Skinny Pete, these characters who in other shows are caricatures.
Great writer, man. Vince Gilligan, man, he's a great writer.
Yeah, and they come in, no, exactly, in so little time and so little screen time, which is also a credit to you and other actors who play these roles that really bring them to life, completely realized. Whenever I was looking back at this, I was like, wow, you're only in 2 episodes of the show, and for a total of 5 minutes, 10 minutes at most, right? And yet your character has a big impact in.
Yeah. I don't know. That's I guess 2 things. One is I don't know how to act. So I never wanted to be an actor, so I don't act. I just be.
Yeah.
And being is just me. So I guess between not knowing how to act and just being myself mostly, people are drawn to that. And a lot of actors, study for years to get to where I just go when a role comes up, because I don't know how to act. I never wanted to be an actor. That was never a dream of mine. To this day, because I'm dyslexic is the reason. Memorizing lines is just too difficult. After a while, I just gave up. So I just kind of dropped out. And that's another reason why I was doing my films. It was just, it relaxed me.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to be in charge and not have to worry about blowing a line. It's my movie. I'm the producer and I'm in it. So I can do what I want, and I can screw up if I have to. And nobody's going to go, hey man, money, money, money. So, time is money, time is money. But Vince Gilligan, I got on Vince's nerves finally. That's why I'm not in Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I was.
Because I kept on going up on lines, and finally he just got tired of saying, all right, let's do it again. Come on, Larry, just memorize your lines.
So as a director, is it that one of those that the word is God and you stick to my words, or is there any flexibility, or is it with him?
Well, I did. I mean, because Vince writes such great stuff, it never occurred to me to ad lib.
Yeah. Okay.
Except there was only one time, and I got away with it. And I don't know what kind of chutzpah I had, but in the Winnebago scene where Brian and Aaron are in the Winnebago, and the brother-in-law is the cop trying to get in there, and I'm quoting law stuff to keep him out of the Winnebago. That was my first scene. I made all that up.
That was No,
that scene is all made up.
that was great. I wrote down, it's in my notes. I was writing down your speech where you're talking about probable cause, and that was great.
And I was just winging it, and I wouldn't admit that I didn't have it memorized. He said, "You ready to go?" Because see, again, the pressure. Now, maybe the pressure just pulled up all that adrenaline.
Yeah.
But I shot a scene with Brian in the morning where he sold me the Winnebago, and it was just a close-up of me and him face to face, and we're dickering, and he finally gives me the money, and I'm like dissing him. And I loved doing that. And I guess Brian loved it too, because I thought the character that I'm playing, Old Joe, in buying this Winnebago from him to destroy, this, and he was talking like White. What was the guy's first name? White?
Walter
White. Walter White was talking like he was a big deal drug dealer, which he was, but I was a junkyard guy. And so I didn't believe him. That was what was in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is trying to jerk me around to get me to pay more money or whatever. But I didn't believe him for a second. And that was just something I glommed onto because I don't do any research, So I said, well, why am I talking to this guy? Well, I don't believe him, so I'm going to put him down. And I thought, putting down Bryan Cranston's character and Bryan Cranston on film would be cool. Let's see what Bryan does. I'm going to put him down. So I dissed him the whole time. I was going, yeah. I mean, that was going in my mind. I don't remember the exact lines, but all of it was, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're a big deal. Yeah, right. Give me the money and get out of here. And then when I got down and I walked down, and just as I left, I just gave him a look of scorn, like, you fuck, and then I just walked away. And they didn't do another take. They said, that was great, man. That was really great. So the director and Brian both said to me, hey, that was really great. Okay. Now I had to go do the Winnebago scene, which is a long fucking speech.
Yeah.
And I tried to remember, and it was given to me during lunchtime. So I only had 2 hours to memorize it, and I couldn't memorize it. I tried. And I thought, what can I do? And I said, well, I'll improvise it. I'm an improviser. So, but I said, I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to try to say it. I'm going to try to memorize it and do it. But as I was walking to the set, and I was saying, I can't remember. I got to remember. What'll I do? I'm not going to tell them. I can't remember it. I'm just going to see what happens. And then I thought, oh, I know. I figured out how I could get away with it, how I could get away. So when I walked up to the director, I said, look, he said, and he had remembered in the morning, I did such a great job. It was a really very tiny scene, easy peasy. So he said, okay, are you ready, Larry? He looked like he was, going to be happy with this scene. He said, okay, you ready to go, Larry? And I go, yeah. He says, okay. So just get down there. We're going to do walk and talk, and we're going to do it in one take, and we're going to send you home. And I go, well, I was thinking, I really know how to direct this scene. And he goes, what? I said, I really know how to direct this scene. He said, you know how to direct this scene. I don't think he had ever heard that from an actor before.
Yeah.
I think that's true. He goes, and he was so shocked that he didn't get angry. He just folded his arms, across his chest, and he said, let's hear this. How are you going to direct this? So in my mind, I was thinking, well, we could, cut it down like you cut it into sections like you do in the editing room, do a shot of him, the cop, and then you do a shot of me, and then you go inside and do a shot of him. Now, you can't do that because they can't keep moving the camera. It's you do all of his stuff, then you do all of my stuff, and you do all of their stuff. So he listened, as I'm going, yeah, we'll do this and then this. And he's nodding, and then he goes, no, Larry, I mean, he was like talking, suddenly he was talking to a little child. He goes, no, Larry, I think what we're going to do is you're going to go down there about 100 feet and you're going to just walk towards the camera and it's going to be one shot. You just keep talking and walking. When you get to the camera, that's the end of the scene. And all of a sudden there was a car here. There was a limo, right? Because we were in a junkyard out in the desert. He said, there was a limo right here. And there was a limo there. And he said, and then after we do it one time, we're going to put you in this limo and you're going to go home. We're going to send you home and you're going to be all finished for the day. And that would be great. Okay. And I go, okay. Just like that. You know? It's like a warning. Okay. And he says, okay. He didn't cop to it. He didn't notice it or anything. He said, get down in. He goes, further, further, further. Okay, right there. Okay, just walk and talk and end it right here, right in front of the camera. And we're going to be just, whatever you're doing, rap focusing. Okay, you ready, Larry? Yeah. So he goes, yeah. And I just started to improvise. And all I had in my mind was, don't stutter, don't go, and keep talking. Don't stop for anything, just talk. And he said, all right, action. And I just blah, 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 blah. I just made it all up. And I just remember the last line. And now I had references because I had read the script. I knew, kind of the stuff. So that's in there somehow. And I got to and he goes, okay. And then I'm standing right next to him because I walked all the way to the camera and I'm expecting to be fired. That's what I had in my sub mind. In my mind, I was improvising. And back here, I'm saying, when I get to the end, I'm going to be fired. Be ready for that. So I won't get shocked when he says you're fired. So I get down and he goes, great. Okay, let's just do it once more for insurance. And then we're putting you in the car and you're going home. It's great, Larry. Go ahead, down there. What? Memorize the whole thing? I couldn't believe it. So I go back down there. I said, now I don't have to worry. I can improvise it. I can make mistakes, whatever. I'll try to do it again, improvise it, but there's no way to improvise it twice the same. You just can't do that. So I go, okay, fine. Get down there. And he goes, you ready, Larry? And I go, yeah. And then I see the script lady walking towards me, and that's not a good sign. That means you screwed up a line or a word. So she's walking towards me. She's got her pencil and she's got the script, and she comes up to me, and I'm going, hey, I'm cool now, Mr. Jaunty Jolly. And I go, hey, so, okay, what did I forget? And I figured, well, I'll just do a pickup. Well, what did I forget? And she said, and she shows me the script. Every fucking word is simple. I've never seen a script like that. She just, and I go, well, I got the gist of it, right? And she says, she said very, very low. She said, the director wants you to do it verbatim. And she said it like, verbatim. And I go, oh, and he's, Larry, anything wrong? No, we're just discussing it. No, well, let's go. And I go, okay. And then he starts walking towards me. And I thought, no, I'm going to get fired. Now he's coming over to fire me now. So I just totally relaxed, breathe. He comes up to me and says, what's wrong? And she says, he won't memorize it verbatim. And he said, is that true, Larry? I said, no, let's just do it. I didn't want to talk about it. Let's just do it. He said, all right. And then the cameraman yelled, is anything wrong? The director says, I'm going to walk with my actor. And he opens his book, the director. And I'm going, oh no, man, this is like kindergarten. He's going to walk right by me. He said, where am I cut off? He said, well, no, we got a choker. So you're right by the shoulder. You can just walk next to him. Okay, cool. Okay. So he says, all right, I'm going to walk next to you, Larry. Is that okay? And he's got the book open. And I go, yeah, that's fine. Okay, kindergarten. I want to go home. I want to be fired. I don't want to be here. And he goes, okay, and action. And I start walking and talking, and I'm improvising again. Just don't stutter, don't say, keep talking. Blah, 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 blah. And he's just, and I see him, I put a corner of my eyes. He's got his head buried in the book. But he didn't stop. I get to the end. I remember the last line, thump, thump. And he goes, okay, Larry's dismissed. Let's everybody give him a hand. You know, they always do that for everybody. You know, let's give him a hand. Thank you, Larry. Okay. Put me in a limo and I drove away. And what the hell just happened? I didn't know. And end of the story is I waited 2 weeks to see the show. And do you know what happened? Can you figure out what happened? Because you say you saw that scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you say that I did a really good job, right?
I thought so.
Yeah, no, I did a really good job.
I mean, you got your character got brought back, right? Isn't that
right? Okay, here's what happened, and this I think is the genius of making movies. I'm not in that scene at all, even though you think you saw me in that scene. I am not in that scene except for.
Got a warrant? This is a domicile, a residence, thus protected by the Fourth Amendment from unlawful search and seizure.
9.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's what they did. And the director knew from at one point I said to the woman, I said, you know, when she came up to me and said, you've got to say it verbatim. My first go-to was, I want to talk to Vince Gilligan. That was the first thing I said to her because I wanted to complain to him that they gave me the script too late.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have time to memorize it. She said, Vince is not here. I said, I want to talk then to the writer of this. And she said, the director wrote this. So that shocked me, but that was the first clue. The director from the second line I said knew that I was making it up. He wrote the goddamn thing, right?
Yeah.
So he knew I was improvising all the way along. And when he said, we got it in the can, go back and do it again, what he did was he took my speeches, the audio of my speeches, and he edited together a proper speech from my two improvs. He put together one good speech, put it as a voiceover, and cut to me 3 times for 3 lines that I said correctly or fit that I improvised. And each line took 2 seconds to say. So it was blah, 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 cut to Larry, 2 seconds, blah, 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 blah. And they just kept cutting to the inside the Winnebago, to Aaron, to Brian, to the cop, to Aaron, to Brian, back to me, Aaron, cop, Brian, Aaron, cop, Brian, Aaron, cop, Brian, me, Aaron, cop, Brian, Aaron, cop, me, scene is over.
And because it's, you know, it's funny watching it now that you say that, I remember at the end of that scene, you actually come out from behind further back in the junkyard. And when I think about it, logistically, that doesn't make sense because based on what the scene made me think is you were all right there. Like they're inside and Hank is right outside the door and you're theoretically a few feet away from him. And then up at the end of the scene, once he drives off, you come around like from further back, like around a corner.
I don't know because I don't remember.
Yeah. But just the way that last shot was, because then that's when, you know, in the show it cuts to him rushing into the hospital and we find out that Walt had called Saul to get his secretary or
I don't know. I just remember,
but then it comes back to crushing the car. Yeah.
But everybody thinks that I'm in the scene and that it was as written, and I improvised it. And movies is magic. I mean,
it really is.
I was in the scene. It's 10 seconds tops. You can time it. It's just weird.
I should have. I'll go back and do that for my own purposes. Just because I'm that weirdo. And then you came back in 2012 for an episode called Live Free or Die, which was the Electromagnets episode, where famously, this is the first episode of that season after Walt has blown up Giancarlo Esposito's Guy Fring character. And, you know, he is now like very empowered in his Walter White evilness. And so they have that laptop that was Guy Fring's, and it's in the lockup, and they have to figure out a way to do it. And Jesse Pinkman's character and the fame hilariously keeps shouting magnets, magnets, and then which you at the end reprise at the end of the episode with the magnets thing. But that was again another really significant point in the show.
Well, the magnet was, I mean, that's writing, man. That whole sequence with the magnet and how it turned out, and you see the laptop just out of his hand and stuff, and how they set that shot up and stuff like that. But the whole thing with that was when I was talking to Brian, was it Walter White? When old Joe was talking to Walter White in that scene, the magnet scene.
All the time.
PMA, positive mental attitude.
I kept on going up on my lines. I don't know why. I mean, it was a short scene. I could have memorized it, but I was going up on it. And Brian was getting mad. He was getting angry with Larry for going up on my lines. And I went up 3 times. So the first 2 times he let it slide. And then on the 3rd time, he goes, "Hey, Larry," and it was very mean. When Brian gets angry, it's really angry. I mean, holy cow, you think you're gonna die. Hey, Larry, get your lines straight, man. I think Brian doesn't like to do a scene the second time. I know Clint Eastwood doesn't either. A lot of actors, stars, don't like to do it twice. You have to really give them a good reason. And I was going up and he had to do it 3 times. He said, "Hey, Larry, get your lines down." So it frightened me so much that he had said that to me, that I said, "Okay, just a second. I need a moment. Can I just walk out of the scene for a second?" I asked the director. He said, "Yeah, sure." So I walk out of the scene. I walked over to the director and I go, "Hey, look, man, Brian is really angry." He goes, "Why?" Because, well, because I've gone up on my lines 3 times, and he's kind of like threatening me. And I mean, am I like fucking up? Am I doing something terrible? Because I thought Brian was just a little over the top. I didn't, and I said, "So I don't know what I should do, man. He's really angry." And the director said, "Larry, we're losing the light. Fuck Brian. All actors forget their lines. Get back in there, will you?" Okay. I go back down. I say, "Well, fuck you, Brian." I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. But it was the only way I could get through the scene. And son of a gun, man, I remembered every line. I got that adrenaline. But, I mean, it's things like that. So Vince doesn't want me in Better Call Saul. This is too much trouble.
And then you're and it's a great, the whole sequence, it's a really borderline absurd for that show, but it works out, like plays really well, and it's just a cool sequence, and particularly like a big thing to happen in the, when that's the first episode of the season after a literal ginormous explosion at the end of the previous one. But then a little bit later, you do get, even though you're not for Better Call Saul, you get what not a lot of these side characters always get. You get a sort of bow on your character, where in who El Camino, Jesse, it's his breakout and his escape, and it's sort of his final, like, he gets something kind of nice for the world of Breaking Bad, I guess it is. His ending is a little bit, it's as happy as an ending as you can get in this universe. But there's a really truly sweet moment where he goes back to like Skinny Pete's house, and Badger's there, and I think it's Skinny Pete's house, but he has the El Camino, and of course they need to get rid of the car, so they call you.
It's on the house. Good kid. Least they can do.
That's a great scene. They use that in the advertising. That's a great scene.
Yeah, I know this is. At this point, who doesn't?
Well, after I did that scene, I had it was a very weird, very difficult camera move. It was a very slow move in, and my foot was, the camera had to go by my foot. My foot is up like that and the camera passes by. And because I didn't have anything to say until the camera stops and then the phone rings.
Mhm.
But while the camera's moving, I wasn't in the scene, just my leg and my foot. So I was tripping out on what could I keep myself in the scene while I'm not in the scene, but the camera is moving and it's only my foot. So the camera had to go by the camera mask, that box that the lens is in. That mask, my foot is like this, and the mask had to go by my foot, just about like close like that. But it started way back here, so I had to put my foot up and keep it there way before the camera came to that point. So my game was an actor's pastime. I wanted to put my foot up and not have to move it and have only that much air between, my foot and the thing. So that was the game I was playing. And the guy who was the cinematographer was saying, no, the camera, it's gonna hit his foot. It's gonna each time. And he was going nuts, but he didn't want to disturb me because I was an actor and the cinematographer can't talk to the actor, it's only the director. But that was the game I was playing in that scene. It was just trying to, and if you look, you see, it's perfect, man. It just comes right by. Okay, but I screwed up in that scene. No, not in that scene, in the scene after.
So then afterwards you go to the house and you're sort of the moment of like sort of that nice touchstone moment is Jesse's like, I don't have any money or whatever, and you say, it's on the house, kid. It's on the house, good kid, and you like pat him on the cheek.
Oh, and I slapped him.
Yeah.
Vince told me, he said, yeah, I didn't slap him. That's not in the script. I mean, but so I just said, hi kid, like we were meeting after a long time of being away. I was, hey, how you doing, kid? So Vince said, well, give him a slap on the face, like, hey, nice going, kid, instead of pinching him on the cheek. Hey, how you doing? Just go, hey, how you doing? So we go once and go, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And Vince goes, no, come on, man. Just give him a slap, because I didn't want to hit Aaron. I mean, he's a star, I mean, we were buddies on the set, but I didn't want to hit him that hard. Vince goes, no, hit him a little harder. Okay. So I go, no, how you doing? Bam! But he kept on going, But after Aaron comes, what the fuck was that all about? No, Vince told me to hit you. No, man, you really slapped me. I'm sorry, man. And then when I had to walk around the thing because I was looking for the cop thing, the
low jack thing for the
low jack thing. I was going around. So I kept on going up on my lines for that. But they had 3 fucking cameras, and the cameramen were directing me.
And I can imagine, because then, I think the camera was moving with you there too.
Yeah, they're moving with me,
but kind of following you.
But it's only a one camera take. No, they had 3 cameras filming what I was doing, but the editor or Vince or whoever edited the scene just kept it on one camera. It's just one camera following me all the way around, even though there was other 2 cameras filming it. But I did it 3 times and I blew a line each time. So I said, okay. And, to reset 3 cameras, that's like a lot of work.
Yeah.
Time. So Vince was getting a little bugged that he had to reset 3 cameras. So on the 4th one, I thought, no, I got to just do it. I just got to memorize it, So he goes, so he said, Larry, take some time, get your lines down. I'm going to talk to the crew. So he went off and had a crew meeting while I'm just going, I'm trying to memorize it. Oh, and I was walking around. I didn't go off to the side. I was walking around alone. And everybody who wasn't at the meeting with Vince just was watching me, standing off to the side. And I'm just this weird actor, this weird tall actor, just walking around saying his lines over and over again until the meeting was over. I just kept on going around and around. And then one of the cameramen, probably the one that followed me all around, he says, when you come by here, just lift up that thing a little. In other words, the cameraman started to, since I was going around and around and nobody was watching, the camera operator wanted to get a really cool shot all the way around. So he was like adjusting me as I'm going to memorize my line. He said, no, do this, then slow down as you come around here. And then, but he wasn't allowed to do that if the cinematographer was around, but they were all in a meeting. So this was his shot, to like direct the actor. So I did that. So then Vince comes back and he goes, okay, the meeting's over. Now, Larry, you're going to do it right? I go, yeah. He says, okay, let's set up, boom, and action. So I'm walking around, and then you watch this scene. I know you don't have to watch it, but if you do, this is the fourth time after the meeting. I'm walking around, and I'm doing what the cameraman says, and I'm memorizing my lines, and I'm walking around. And as I get around here, I trip. I go, boom, like that, on a tree root. I go, boom. But I kept on talking. I just said, keep on talking. Going around like that. Okay. And then Vince goes, moving on. No, I think I did it one more time. But he used the tripping thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that is so cool. It's like real. He goes for the verisimilitude.
Yeah.
Reality. Yeah, well, the guy tripped. Well, that's what people do. I thought that was brilliant. That he had, but I had done it under such pressure, because I thought I was going to get fired again, But yeah, he didn't fire me; he just didn't hire me again. But it's the same thing. But it's okay, Vince. It's cool. It's cool. I understand.
And again, and that said, he did give you, like I said, a sort of send off for your character, which is a cool thing to see in the show. And
yeah, no, man, I was in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm sitting here, I'm talking to someone who was in Breaking Bad. Everything else aside, yeah.
I don't. Again, you just move on. That's who cares? I just, it's just something that happened along your trip, Larry. That's all it was.
And awesome. We'll wrap up with that. Thank you so much, Mr. Hankin, for your time and your stories. I appreciate. I feel like I had 3 pages of notes and things.
Well, listen, when the book comes out, have me on again, and we'll talk.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just do the commercial. Okay,
yeah, please.
LarryHankin.com. Don't go to LarryHankin.com. That's being held for ransom. The real LarryHankin.com. You can get my paintings, or all my paintings are on T-shirts, and the book. When the book comes out, that's where you go to get it.
And everything will be linked below, so you can find all those links wherever you're listening. If you're listening to us, and if you're obviously seeing us on YouTube, all the links are below.
Okay, and the real Larry Hankin.
The real Larry Hankin.
No. That guy. That's the name of the book. That guy. It's about my adventures in Hollywood.
Awesome.
There you go.
Thank you.
Josiah?
Josiah, yes.
Josiah, man. Cool name. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Have a good one.